Welcome back to Get Down to Business, this show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. So, new year comes new opportunities, and we're going to talk about about some amazing franchise opportunities. And we're going to have that conversation with Patrick Elsner, who has nearly 15 years of experience in advertising sales, catering to major American companies such as Ford, Bank of America, American Airlines, Anheuser-Busch, and State Farm. And during his tenure, Patrick developed a profound appreciation for small business and franchising, as many of his clients were local franchises, and that's what I want to talk about today. Patrick, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. 20 years of experience in helping corporate executives and aspiring franchise owners achieve their dreams. And you've launched, as I understand, over 500 franchises. So, Patrick, when did you develop this sort of passion and expertise?
So when I sold advertising to small business owners, one of the things that I noticed, and I couldn't articulate it at a young age, but what I recognized is they all lack systems and infrastructure, processes and plans. And that helped me sort of forge an appreciation for franchising. And I ended up selling a lot of advertising to franchise owners. So I was able to see the compare and contrast between these small business owners that were sort of floundering and then these franchise owners who are actually doing very well. And so it helped me really understand why, like Michael Gerber says in the book, The E-Myth, that you need to have a plan. And that's what franchising provides.
Fantastic. That's great. So like I said in the intro, new year, new opportunities. So power of franchising in the U.S. Many of our listeners have heard of franchising before, but why now and why franchising?
Well, for those of us that don't have a business idea, the franchise is kind of like that business in a box. They're basically providing you not only the business idea, but the intellectual property, the systems, the infrastructure, the tools that you need, marketing, the know-how. It's kind of like buying furniture at IKEA. They're going to give you the instruction manual. It's up to you to follow those instructions.
Absolutely. That's great. So you work with, as mentioned, a lot of successful entrepreneurs, including some corporate executives that have really made this transition. And you've done this over 500 times. So are there any particular industries or particular companies that are really hot right now?
Really anything that's providing a service, whether it be in home services or it could be providing a service in health and wellness. We're seeing a lot of that. I would say 75% of my placements over the last 2 years have been people in corporate America that want to keep that W-2 job, that perceived safety of a W-2 job, but want to build something on the side, and they want to provide a service that can't be usurped by Amazon.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's interesting. These past few years have been a wild ride in the business world. As we've been saying, so many folks have decided to make a transition in their lives and explore these entrepreneurial opportunities. So. Tell us maybe a little bit of the behind the scenes of, maybe without names, but any of the profiles of the people that you've been working with and how they have experienced some success in the franchise world.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples. I worked with a husband and wife here in St. Louis where I am, and he's a corporate America executive, does a lot of traveling. Wife is sort of a stay-at-home mom. Kids are a little bit older now. She has a thing for health and wellness. So I place them with a health and wellness concept that will allow them to build multiple units here in St. Louis, and then eventually allowing the husband to transition out of that corporate job and maybe build kind of a mini empire. But part of the appeal for the health and wellness was that the wife really was into health and wellness and well-being. So it was a sort of a good sort of combination. His sales and marketing background coupled with her interest in health and wellness. It's a powerful 1-2 punch.
Okay. So many folks are familiar with franchising from watching, I forgot what the movie's called, honestly, but about McDonald's and, the rough and tumble world and so on. But these days, franchise opportunities come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Let's talk a little bit about the financial requirements of franchise ownership. What should our listeners know about the opportunities?
Well, the number one reason businesses fail, and this is universal, by the way, not just with franchising, but the number one reason businesses fail is undercapitalization. So we want to make sure that you've got the financial wherewithal to be able to sort of weather that initial launch. The other thing is every franchisor is going to require liquid capital requirements and also net worth requirements. For example, Panera Bread, they won't even talk to you if you don't have an $8 million net worth. And they're designing that because there's a standard they've set for the type of candidate they want in their franchise system.
Absolutely. We've been chatting about some of the trends that we've been seeing, but as we air this conversation, we're entering into a brand new year. Of course, happy new year to all of our listeners. So 2024, what's your crystal ball telling you about franchising in the new year?
There's no question about it. I think what's happened really over the last, probably since 2018, 2019, certainly buoyed by the pandemic, is that the new American dream is not home ownership per se. That's still a foundation, but the new American dream is business ownership, whether it's a franchise or an independent business, a side hustle. You watch programs like Shark Tank really have propelled people's interest in business ownership. So I think for a lot of people, there's an awakening of, okay, there's no loyalty working a corporate job on both sides of the equation. So people look at business ownership as a way to sort of give them another revenue stream, a little bit of diversification from the stock market and a W-2 job.
So I'm chatting with Patrick Elsner, who had nearly 15 years of experience in advertising sales. But for the last 20 years, Patrick has offered support to those seeking to achieve financial freedom and escape the monotony of corporate America. We've been chatting about franchise opportunities. So Patrick, why you? You're a trusted consultant, but why would somebody need to talk to you to explore those opportunities?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's a maze of franchise opportunities, over 4,000 franchise licenses registered in the United States through the Federal Trade Commission. So what I tell everybody is it's not necessarily to talk exclusively to me, but I'm going to give you advice and counsel that you're not going to get from, say, looking on a website or going into Entrepreneur Magazine. There's no harm in working with somebody like me as a consultant because there's no contracts with me. If I can't help you, I tell you up front. But the one thing I will tell you, having done this now for 20 years, it's worth it to at least explore it, have an initial conversation with me. I'll offer advice and counsel. If you don't like my advice, no harm, no foul.
That's great. So, Patrick, of course, our listeners can't see this fantastic background behind you, but Franchise Insider. You mentioned the term side hustle before earlier in the conversation. I know, as we've been saying, franchises are all over the place in terms of folks that are, working on multiple franchise opportunities at the same time. But some folks, including some of those corporate executives that you're working with, are actually exploring opportunities for an additional stream of income. Any final words of advice for the diverse audience that we have listening to this program?
Well, I would say the biggest piece of advice that I offer people exploring franchises is really keep an open mind. There's a guy here in St. Louis that owns 80 something Great Clips. It's a hair salon. And this guy didn't start out, wake up one day and decide he wanted to be in the hair salon business. But Great Clips was a vehicle to get him where he wants to go. And now with 80 something stores across Kansas and Missouri and down into Florida, he has built this empire, but he was agnostic about the subject matter. You could replace haircuts with mufflers or bagels. It was more about an end result. And that's what I implore people to focus in on, more about the end result and not necessarily the widget.
That's awesome. I've been chatting with Patrick Elsner from Franchise Insider. Patrick, really have benefited from all of the advice, the examples, and expertise that you bring in everything franchising. Patrick, I know our listeners will have questions. How can they get in touch with you?
Easiest thing to do is info@franinside.com, www.franinside.com. Very simple URL. They can also hit me up on LinkedIn. There's over 105 written testimonials of people that I placed just in the last couple years on LinkedIn.
That's fantastic. Patrick Elsner, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We're going to squeeze in a very quick break here on the program, all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Tom Mirabali, independent agent, on everything health insurance and affordable care act. You can reach him at 630-863-3477 or his website, healthplanchicago.com. We're getting a quick break. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back and get down to business.